Hi dear students, welcome back to Botany Optional classes. We have completed microbiology and now we are moving on to CRYPTOGAMS. We will come to plant pathology part after completing this. And this is the syllabus of CRYPTOGAMS. Under CRYPTOGAMS, algae, fungi, lichens, bryophytes, pteridophytes, their structure and reproduction from evolutionary viewpoint, distribution of cryptogamers in India and their ecological and economic importance. So this is the syllabus of cryptogamers. Firstly, we going to discuss about fungi. And major topics under cryptogamers are fungi, lichen, algae, bryophytes and pteridophytes. So these are the major topics we are discussing under cryptogamers. Fungi. So while you are studying about fungi, what are the points you have to be noted under fungi? So firstly, you have to know about the definition of fungi. This session is just an introductory class. In this class, we are mainly focusing on to the topics we are discussing under fungi. So firstly, we have to know the definition of fungi, and then you should know about how these fungi differ from other organisms, how fungi differ from algae, how fungi differ from plants, and next you have to be note about the significance of fungi. Significance of fungi and the general characters of fungi. General characteristics of fungi. Then you should know about the fungal diversity. Under fungal diversity, fungi-like organisms are there. Fungi-like organisms and true fungi are there. You have to be study about the fungi-like organisms and true fungi, and classification of fungi. And when you look on to fungi, you have to know about the nutrition. Nutrition of fungi, their thallus structure, and the nuclear status of fungi, life cycles of major species which comes under different phylum, and sporocarps. We'll discuss all this in detail in our coming classes. In this class, we are just look on to the contents. We are studying under fungi. And next is the habitat and the distribution. So nutrition. The nutrition of fungi, their thallus structure and their nuclear status, life cycles of major species, and sporocarps, habitat, and their distribution. So these are the things we are discussing under fungi. And fungal diversity. When looking on to fungal diversity, there are fungal-like organisms and true fungi are there, and you have to be study all this. Fungal-like organisms such as MYXOMYCOTA, Plasmodio, Untitled Plasmodiophoромycota, and OOMYCOTA. These are the fungal-like organisms. And under true fungi, CHYTRIDIOMYCOTA, ZYGOMYCOTA, ASEXUAL, BASIDIOMYCOTA. These are comes under the true fungi. And one more there, fungi imperfecta. So these are the fungal diversity you should have be studied. Fungal-like organisms, MYXOMYCOTA, PLASMODIOPHOROMYCOTA, OOMYCOTA, and under true fungi, CHYTRIDIOMYCOTA, ZYGOMYCOTA, ASEXUAL, BASIDIOMYCOTA. Under true fungi, CHYTRIDIOMYCOTA, ZYGOMYCOTA, BASIDIOMYCOTA, and ASEXUAL. So ASEXUAL, which is the largest phylum of fungus. And structure. While you are studying the structure of fungi, you have to know the typical fungal structure. Typical fungal structure and the structures. There are various structures in fungi. You have to know about the structures with diagrams and examples. So while you are writing an answer from the structural part of fungi, diagram and example, these two are must. When you are writing an answer from the structural part of fungi, diagram and examples are must. And looking on to the vegetative thallus organization, mycelia and hypha, and their thallus differentiation. So you have to know about the mycelial types and their hypha, septate and non-septate, and here also septate and non-septate. You have to know what mycelia and hypha are, and try to make a short note on this mycelia and hypha. When looking on to the Indian Forest Service mains exam, short notes can be asked from this mycelia, hypha, those sporocarps, or the spore bearing structures of fungi. So you have to make short notes on mycelia, hypha, and the spore bearing structures of fungus and their thallus differentiation. So how this thallus is differentiated, how in fungi how the thallus is differentiated, you should have make notes on this thallus differentiation. And under mode of nutrition, you have an idea about fungi as saprophytes, fungi as parasites, fungi as symbionts, and fungi as predators, with examples. All this with examples. So fungi as saprophytes, fungi as parasites, fungi as symbionts, fungi as predators. All this with examples. And reproduction of fungi. In fungi there are 3 types of reproduction. One is the vegetative mode of reproduction, and asexual reproduction, Sexual reproduction. Under vegetative reproduction, you have to be know about fragmentation, Udia, chlamydospores, we'll discuss all this in detail in the coming classes. Just to know, these are the topics you have to be studied under vegetative reproduction. Next is the fission, budding, and sclerotia. So these are the vegetative reproductions in fungi. And while looking on to the different vegetative mode of reproductions, we have to be write an example for the fungi which exhibit fragmentation, fission, budding, sclerotia, chlamydospores, or for the Odia. And asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction, you have to be know about the sporangio, spores and their types, conidia. While you have writing an answer from this asexual reproduction or the spore bearing structures of fungi, you have to be mentioned while you are writing an answer from the spore bearing structures of fungi, giving example and the diagram is must. Giving example and the diagram is must while you are writing an answer from the spore bearing structures of fungi. Presenting suitable examples and diagram for that. And in sexual reproduction, plasmogamy, karyogamy, and apart from this, you have to be know about what is hetero and homothallism and the parasexuality. So under sexual reproduction, you have to be a clear-cut idea about the plasmogamy, karyogamy, heterothallism, homothallism, and parasexuality. And while studying different phylum, fungi-like organisms, the first phylum which is MYXOMYCOTA. While you are studying this phylum, what are the points you have to be studied under this? Characteristic features. Their occurrence, vegetative body of MYXOMYCOTA, and the mode of nutrition and the reproduction. And economic importance of MYXOMYCOTA. Economic importance of MYXOMYCOTA. Their phylogenetic relationship, and you have to be know at least one life cycle of any species, and mostly question which has been asked from this physa. and life cycle of Pfizer. So these are the contents you have to be studied under MYXOMYCOTA. Their characteristic features, occurrence, vegetative body, the mode of nutrition, reproduction, economic importance of MYXOMYCOTA, phylogenetic relationship, and the life cycle of Pfizer. So these are the topics you have to be studied under MYXOMYCOTA. And next is the PLASMODIOPHOROMYCOTA. This is another fungi-like organism. So while we are studying about different fungal diversity, fungi-like organisms and true fungi are there. So you have try to make it tabular or try to make it table, or the differences between the fungi-like organisms and true fungi. While studying fungal diversity, make a table and write the differences between the fungal-like organisms and true fungi. And under PLASMODIOPHOROMYCOTA, again you have to be study the characteristic features, the occurrence of PLASMODIOPHOROMYCOTA, vegetative body, nutrition, reproduction, economic importance, and the life cycle of Plasmodiphora. So this is the major species which comes under the Plasmodiphoromycota, and you have to be know the life cycle of Plasmodiphora. So while you are studying any of the fungal diversities or any of the phylums of fungi, you have to be know their characteristic features, occurrence, vegetative body, nutrition, reproduction, economic importance, and at least life cycle of one major species. And OOMYCOTA. Again the same things, characteristic features, their occurrence, nutrition, vegetative body, reproduction, economic importance of OOMYCOTA, and life cycle of Phytophthora. And so here there are two major organisms which are Phytophthora and Phytia. And you have to be know the differences between OOMYCOTA and CHYTRIDIOMYCOTA, and the difference between OOMYCOTA and CHYTRIDIOMYCOTA. So these are the topics you have to be studied under OOMYCOTA. And next we are discussing about the true fungi. Under true fungi, firstly we have to be discuss about the CHYTRIDIOMYCOTA. In CHYTRIDIOMYCOTA, you have to be noted the characteristic features of CHYTRIDIOMYCOTA, occurrence, vegetative body, nutrition, reproduction, economic importance of CHYTRIDIOMYCOTA, and the life cycle of Synchytrium. So this is the major species of CHYTRIDIOMYCOTA, and you have to be know the life cycle of Synchytrium. And while studying CHYTRIDIOMYCOTA, make a table and write down the differences between CHYTRIDIOMYCOTA and OOMYCOTA. Differences between CHYTRIDIOMYCOTA and OOMYCOTA. And ZYGOMYCOTA. Under ZYGOMYCOTA, you have to be again noted the characteristic features, occurrence, vegetative body, nutrition, reproduction, economic importance, and You have to be studied in detail about the life cycle of rhizopus and mucor. So in zygomycota, you have to be studied detail about the rhizopus and mucor. So these two organisms make a detailed note on this rhizopus and mucor and their life cycle. And ascomycota, which is the largest family of ascomycota, which is the largest family of fungus. Again, here also you have to be noted all these things, and here you have to be studied the economic importance of different fungal species. You have to be study the life cycles of Saccharomyces, Aspergillus, Penicillium, Neurospora, and Claviceps and Pisiza. And make a note on the apothecium of Pisiza. And under this Saccharomyces cerevisiae, you have to be know the economic importance of Saccharomyces, again the economic importance of Aspergillus, economic importance of Penicillium, economic importance of Neurospora, and the specialized in Pisiza. Make a note on apothecium. This structure of apothecium, which can be asked in, or make a short note of this apothecium. This can be asked in Indian Civil Service exam. While you are going through the Indian Civil Service means exam, several terms related from the syllabus can be asked. So there are chances for asking apothecia or the structure of apothecia. So try to make a note on apothecia. And Basidiomycota. In Basidiomycota, these are the things you have to be noted, and apart from that, you have to be noted the differences between Basidiomycota and Basidiomycota and Ascomycota. What are the differences between Basidiomycota and Ascomycota, and the life cycle of important species. And next is the Fungi imperfectae. In Fungi imperfectae, you have to be note the characteristic features, occurrence, vegetative body, nutrition, reproduction, economic importance of Fungi imperfectae, and the life cycles of important species. And under this, you have to be know about the life cycle of Fusarium, Cercospora, and Alternaria. And Fungi imperfectae, you have to be know about the life cycles of important species such as Fusarium, Cercospora, and Alternaria. And the last one is lichen. And in lichens, you should have know what lichens are, their composition and structure. structure, special structures of lichen thallus, special structures of lichen thallus, and the physiological characteristics of lichen. Physiological characteristics of lichen and the lichen association. Lichen association with algae and fungi, and the ecology of lichen. Ecology of lichen and the economic importance. Economic importance of lichens. So under lichens you have to know what lichens are, their composition structure, special structures of lichen thallus, physiological characteristics, lichen association, and the ecology of lichen, or the ecological importance of lichen, and the economic importance of lichens. So these are the topics we are discussing under fungi and lichens. While you are looking on the previous year questions from both CAC and Indian Force Service, there are a number of questions from this fungi part. So while studying fungi, make note on the major contents of fungi. Just on the syllabus they have mentioned the structure and reproduction and the ecological distribution and the economic importance of CRYPTOGAMS. So while going to the previous year questions, you can see that questions which are asked from the fungal parts in detail. So you have to know the different fungal diversities and the different phylums, and from the phylums you have to be noted at least one life cycle from one phylum. And when it comes to ASEXUAL, there are numerous groups of fungi which having both economic importance, such as by looking onto the Aspergillus, Penicillium, Saccharomyces, so all Neurospora, all this having economic importance. So you have to be studied all this in detail. And when it comes to the lichen part, you have to know what lichens are: composition, structure, special structures, physiological characters, lichen association, ecology of lichen, and the economic importance. And while studying the fungus, try to make a tabular form and write the differences between the fungal like organisms and fungi, and how fungi differ from plants and algae, and the major differences from the different phylum groups, and write down the major differences and write it in a tabular form, so you can easily revise their differences. And when we looking on to the previous question, there are numerous times of questions which has been asked from these areas. So while studying fungi, try to make the differences in a tabular form and keep revising on. And if a question which is asked from this area, simply you can score well if the differences between ASEXUAL or BASIDIOMYCOTA is asked. If you know the differences between ASEXUAL and BASIDIOMYCOTA, you can simply score good in that particular question. So try to make a tabular or a table and keep revising the major differences between algae and other organisms and the major differences between the different phylums of algae. This will give you an extra edge while you are writing mains exam. On the next class, we are discussing about the general characteristics of fungi, the definition of fungi and their general characteristics and their mode of nutrition among the fungi, and the vegetative thallus organization of fungi and the reproduction. Under reproduction, we have discussing the vegetative mode, asexual mode of reproduction and the sexual mode of reproduction. So after that, we are entering into the different phylums of fungi. After completing the general characteristics of fungi, we are entering into different phylum groups. So keep this in your mind while you are studying the fungi. So while studying about fungi, firstly you have to write the topics that you have to be studied under fungi. So I have gone through all of the topics after going through the mains questions both from CSE and Indian Force Service mains exam. So try to write these headings before starting fungi. If you are making note on fungi on the first page, you have to write down the topics. What are the topics you have to be studied under fungi? So firstly, under fungi you have studying about fungi, the definition. Write this definition, and after that the occurrence, the habitat, the vegetative. So try to write down or note down the outlines of the major topics you need to study under fungi. And after studying about the fungi and the occurrence, habitat, vegetative, structure, make a tick on it. And so you can, while going through the outline piece, you can try to know what are the things you have to be studied under fungi and what are the topics you have covered and how many topics are left to you to be covered. Make an outline of the fungal topics and write down the major headings of the topics you have to be studied under fungi. This will help you to know the major topics of fungi, and this will keep away you that what are the topics you have to be studied and what are the topics left to you to be studied. So try to make an outline of the major topics of fungi. Thank you.